to imagine you've just made the biggest purchase of your year. You spent $60,000 on a brand new high-tech SUV. It has the leather, the massive screens, the safety sensors, and that unmistakable new car smell. For the first 3 years, it's perfect. You follow the maintenance light, you take it to the dealer, you feel like you've made a great investment. But then you hit 51,000 miles. The warranty just expired. You're driving home on a Tuesday, and suddenly you smell something sweet, like maple syrup. A small puff of white steam drifts from under the hood. 2 seconds later, your dashboard lights up like a Christmas tree. Engine temperature critical, pull over safely. By the time you get to the shoulder, the engine is dead. It won't restart. You tow it to the shop, and the mechanic tells you something that makes your blood run cold. A $3 plastic coolant Y pipe, or a coolant flange, has cracked. Because the part was plastic, it didn't leak slowly, it shattered. All your coolant vanished in seconds. Your aluminum engine block warped instantly. The repair bill? $15,000 for a new engine, all because of a piece of plastic that costs less than a cup of coffee. Welcome to the plastic engine pandemic. This is not an accident. This is not bad luck. This is a deliberate engineering shift that has turned the automotive industry into a disposable appliance market. In 2026, manufacturers have replaced iron and steel with cheap polymers in the most critical, high-heat areas of your engine. In this investigative report, I'm going to expose the plastic pandemic. I will show you the specific engines from Ford, BMW, and Mercedes that are literally melting at the 50,000-mile mark. I will explain the material science reason why these parts are guaranteed to fail. And most importantly, I will show you how to identify the disposable engines before you sign a $60,000 contract. To understand why your engine is full of plastic, we have to follow the money. In the old days, the golden era we talk about on this channel, engine parts like water pumps, intake manifolds, and thermostat housings were made of cast iron or aluminum. They were heavy, they were expensive to manufacture, but they could handle heat cycles for 30 years. In 2026, manufacturers are under two massive pressures. First, the EPA and fuel economy. To hit government mandates, cars have to be lighter. Every ounce of weight they can shave off the engine helps. Replacing an aluminum intake manifold with a plastic one saves 5 pounds. Second, manufacturing margins. It is significantly cheaper to injection mold a plastic part than it is to cast and machine a metal one. But here is the dirty secret. Plastic has a shelf life in a high heat environment. Engineers know that nylon and composite plastics become brittle after a certain number of heat cycles. A heat cycle is every time you start your car, it gets hot, and then it cools down in your driveway. The plastic parts are designed to survive exactly enough heat cycles to get through the warranty period. In the industry, this is called end-of-life synchronization. They want the parts to fail just as the bank gets its last payment. This isn't just planned obsolescence. It is a material science trap. We have to start with the most common engines in America, the Ford 1.5-liter, 2.0-liter, and 2.7-liter EcoBoost engines. If you own a Ford Escape, Explorer, or F-150 from 2018 to 2025, you are driving a car with a plastic heart. Ford uses plastic for the coolant crossover pipes and the degas bottle hoses. These pipes sit directly on top of a hot engine block. In 2026, we are seeing a massive wave of failures at exactly 50,000 miles. The plastic quick connect fittings on these hoses dry out. They don't just leak, they snap off. Because modern engines are high compression and turbocharged, they run much hotter than engines from 20 years ago. When that plastic fitting snaps, the coolant is gone in a heartbeat. Because these engines have aluminum heads and blocks, they have zero tolerance for overheating. If you don't shut the engine off within 5 seconds of that plastic part snapping, the engine is cooked. Mechanics across the country are seeing EcoBoost meltdowns every single day. Ford's solution? They sell you the exact same plastic part as a replacement so you can do it all again in another 50,000 miles. BMW used to be the ultimate driving machine. In 2026, they are the ultimate plastic machine. Specifically, look at the B48 and B58 engines found in almost every modern BMW. While these are great performing engines, BMW decided to make the oil filter housing and the water pump impeller out of plastic. Think about that. The part that holds your engine's oil and the part that circulates your engine's coolant are made of the same material as a Lego brick. As these cars hit 4 or 5 years old, the plastic oil filter housing begins to warp from the constant heat of the oil. It starts leaking oil directly onto the drive belt. The belt slips off, gets sucked into the front crank seal, and destroys the engine from the inside out. I have seen 3-year-old BMWs with 30,000 miles already showing cracks in the plastic cooling vents. This is a premium luxury brand selling you a disposable engine disguised as a performance masterpiece. I need to stop here because I'm about to show you 3 more engines that are failing, but I can tell you're getting worried. You're thinking, is my car on this list? Is my engine full of plastic? The answer is probably. Almost every car manufacturer has shifted to plastic components in 2026, but some are much worse than others. Some manufacturers have service bulletins for these parts that they don't tell the public about. That is why I created the 2026 Car Market Cheat Sheet. Inside Part 1, the Blacklist, I have a dedicated section called the Plastic Pandemic Index. I list the specific car models where the cooling system is made of timed failure plastic. I tell you exactly which pipes to look at and which parts you need to replace with aftermarket metal versions to save your engine. But more importantly, in the Gold list, I list the few engines that still use metal cooling components and metal water pumps. These are the cars that will actually last 20 years. If you spend $29 on this cheat sheet today, it could literally save you a $15,000 engine replacement next month. Don't wait for the steam to come from under your hood. Click the link in the description, download the cheat sheet, and see if your car is a ticking time bomb. Now, back to the list. And this next one involves an engine that is failing in a very modern way. Mercedes-Benz has always been the standard for over-engineering, but in 2026, the M260 and M264 engines, found in the A-Class, CLA, and GLB, are suffering from a plastic-adjacent disaster. While the head isn't plastic, the intake manifold and the variable valve actuators are. Mercedes designed these engines to run at extremely high temperatures to burn off every last bit of fuel for emissions. This heat is so intense that the plastic intake components begin to melt and deform. This causes air leaks that the computer tries to compensate for by dumping more fuel into the cylinders. This leads to cylinder bore scoring and eventually a cracked head cylinder. We are seeing these Mercedes engines needing total replacements at 40,000 to 50,000 miles. The cost? At a Mercedes dealer, a new engine for a CLA is $20,000. The owners are stunned. They thought they bought a lifetime car. They actually bought a 5-year lease on a piece of plastic junk. General Motors has been using the 1.4-liter turbo engine in the Chevy Trax, Buick Encore, and Chevy Cruze for years. This engine is the poster child for the plastic pandemic. The water outlet, the piece that connects the engine to the radiator, is a complex piece of plastic. It sits right next to the turbocharger, which reaches temperatures of 1,000 degrees. It doesn't stand a chance. These water outlets crack so often that most auto parts stores keep 10 of them in stock at all times. But here's the danger. When it cracks, it sprays coolant onto the hot turbo. The coolant vanishes instantly. The driver doesn't see a puddle on the ground. They just see the needle move to hot, and then the engine dies. Buying a used 1.4-liter GM vehicle with 50,000 miles is effectively buying a car that needs an immediate cooling system overhaul. If you don't do it, you will be walking home. We have to talk about the most high-risk plastic component of all, the timing belt. As we discussed in previous videos, Ford and Stellantis have moved to wet belts that run in oil. Why is this part of the plastic pandemic? Because the belt is a rubber plastic composite. When it sits in hot, acidic engine oil, it begins to depolymerize. It turns back into a mushy, plastic-like sludge. This sludge clogs the oil pickup. This is the ultimate disposable engineering, a car that destroys its own oiling system through material degradation. If your car has a wet belt, it has a biological clock. At 60,000 miles, that clock hits midnight. Is there hope? Yes, the automotive aftermarket has realized how bad this problem is. Companies are now manufacturing aluminum replacement parts for these plastic failures. You can buy an aluminum water outlet for your Chevy. You can buy an aluminum thermostat housing for your BMW. Rule number 1. The 50K overhaul. If you own a modern car, do not wait for it to break. At 50,000 miles, have a mechanic replace every plastic coolant pipe with a metal version. It will cost you a few $100s now, but it will save you $15,000 later. Rule number 2, check the material list. Before you buy a car, open the hood. Look for black plastic. If you see plastic pipes running from the engine to the radiator, you are looking at a car that will eventually leave you stranded. Rule number 3, buy from the gold list. There are still a few manufacturers like Mazda and specific Toyota models that use metal crossover pipes and robust cooling systems. I listed them all in the cheat sheet. The plastic pandemic is the result of an industry that has prioritized efficiency over longevity. They want you to have a car that gets 30 miles per gallon for 5 years, rather than a car that gets 20 miles per gallon for 20 years. They're betting that you'll just trade it in before the plastic melts. But in 2026, with car prices where they are, most people can't afford to just trade it in. You need your car to last. Stop being a victim of the disposable era. Stop letting $3 plastic parts destroy your bank account. Get the data, get the cheat sheet, and keep the plastic in your toys, not your engine.